All right, everybody, it's a Sunday night. My instant reaction. Let's start with the Steelers and the Dolphins. I'm not sure I recall watching a football game that had more dropped interceptions. It was ugly with all those drops still. Listen, you're not looking at great quarterbacks. Let's talk Pittsburgh. Mike Tomlin, in my opinion, does not have an offensive philosophy. The Steelers just do a really good job of drafting players and developing them. Johnson, George Pickens, Chase Claypool, their tight end, Najee Harris, those are good players. I mean, really, really high-end receiving core. Kenny Pickett's a rookie. He is comfortable from the pocket when he's allowed to stay in the pocket, but 4 or 5 years running now, the Steelers, again, offensive line's bad, don't have much of a running game. My concerns about Kenny Pickett. Think about Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones is, of the Giants, big enough, moves well enough, throws well enough to be a starter in this league. There's no special to Daniel Jones, but you're watching Brian Daboll get the most out of him. The most you can get out of him. They're winning games. Kenny Pickett, big enough, decent arm, moves pretty well, but not special in any of them. He's got a defensive coach and a bad offensive line. I feel bad for guys like this. I think Kenny Pickett's the kind of quarterback that needs an offensive coach. Patrick Mahomes would succeed, perhaps not to this level, but he'd succeed in this league. Josh Allen has a defensive coach, but Mike Tomlin doesn't have an offensive philosophy. So Kenny Pickett is left with really good talent around him, running for his life, having to move constantly against a really, really talented group of corners for the Miami Dolphins. Pickett's good enough to start in this league, but there's no special there. He's comfortable in the pocket. He started for 4 years in college. He's got a lot of snaps. But, some of these, you watch Jared Goff now without a special coach. What is he? Right? Kenny Pickett's not special enough to just wing it, even with good players around him. And, we know Mike Tomlin, he's won a Super Bowl. He's been to Super Bowls. But the game's changing. It's pivoting. And I don't know what his philosophy is. And he keeps going through offensive coordinators and offensive linemen. And Kenny Pickett is just nothing special. And, tonight he was lucky he didn't have twice as many interceptions. Okay, Miami. Tua has limitations, but Tua has an offensive coach. This game was essentially decided because Mike McDaniel, coach of the Dolphins, scripted about 15 plays. And they came out hair on fire, up and down the field, took a lead, and held the lead. I mean, that's the ball game. It's not because Tua is a sensational talent. He had a couple of interceptions dropped. He has limitations. He's acknowledged he struggles to see over the line. They have very good receivers as well. I mean, you're watching kind of average quarterback play here. But I do think Tua, if he remains the starter, stays healthy with this offensive coach who has a philosophy, you could see it in the first 15 plays. Fast, slick, clever, get the ball out. You can see his offensive philosophy. He just doesn't have an elite quarterback. And that's the difference in this game. If this game was played 15 years ago in the NFL with different rules, Tomlin may win it. In 2022 with the new rules that lean offense, Mike McDaniel wins it. A lot of talent in this game. Not a ton at quarterback, but a lot of talent. I think Miami will end up making the playoffs. I think they'll beat New England again. The Jets, a little smoke and mirrors. They're doing it with running, defense, and special teams. They have essentially taken the football out of the hands of Zach Wilson. No touchdown pass again today. They've taken the ball out of his hands. Don't lose it for us. So I think the Dolphins are a playoff team. They're going to be a one-and-doner, I would guess, in the AFC, but I feel like a playoff team. Pittsburgh feels like an organization that's a little lost at sea offensively. I want to talk Green Bay Packers. So none of this is a surprise. My big prediction, or one of them, in the preseason was Aaron Rodgers would not win the division. they would go from a 13-win regular season team down to about 8 or 9, is that a lot of what's happening with Green Bay right now is incredibly predictable. Aaron is not a father figure. In fact, Aaron doesn't get along with his own family. Aaron is not patient. Aaron is rich, single, and aging and getting close to 40. This team needs a mentor, somebody that can put his arms around these young receivers. This is all incredibly predictable. I picked the Packers to be a wild card team. I picked them to lose to the Jets 2 weeks ago. I picked against them in my Blazing 5, although I thought they'd pull it out, but I didn't think they'd cover. What you're seeing is teams have figured them out. They have no deep threat. Everybody can see that on film. And when receivers do get open, occasionally deep, either Aaron won't throw it to them or it misfires. They drop it. So no real deep threat. This is, as I said before this season, one of the weaker offensive lines Aaron's ever had. So he doesn't have quite as much time, no deep threat. And their defense and special teams, frankly, are underachieving. This is not a shock. When you lose a dominant number one receiver with an impatient, aging quarterback, not willing to groom and be patient with young receivers, this is exactly what we thought it would be. And I got to give Tony Dungy credit on NBC. I've got to give members of the media credit. People are starting to acknowledge it. Tony Dungy at NBC showed multiple pieces of tape where there's guys open, there's moments. Aaron's not built for this. That is why Green Bay needs to give up draft capital and go get a Chase Claypool. Great news for the Packers tonight. When Pittsburgh keeps losing, they're potentially more willing to move off a player at the trade deadline, which is coming up. Pittsburgh wins tonight. They think they got a chance to make the playoffs. But with now Cincinnati surging and Baltimore winning, those teams are just better than Pittsburgh. They lose again. Maybe you can read that they're not interested in moving Chase Claypool. Well, you lose again next weekend. Maybe you change your mind. But I think Green Bay has to go out and get Aaron. Claypool, I think, is a really, really special player who isn't doing much now because he's with a team. You can't throw many deep balls with Pittsburgh because the offensive line's not going to give Kenny Pickett that long to throw the football. So Green Bay is incredibly predictable. They will not win this division, and none of it should take any of us by surprise. We all know professional athletes care about what they look like. And as you know, I care about what I look like. Right now, I've been wearing a lot of Cuts clothing. I love this thing right now. Every Cut shirt is designed to provide a perfectly tailored look. If you want a long sleeve Henley, no problem. A short sleeve crew neck, they've got it. Cuts has everything you want. And I've got all of it, and I wear all of it. Right now, 15% off your first order. 15% off first order by going to cutsclothing.com/Colin. Cuts, C-U-T-S. Look them up. I got a closet full of their stuff, and I love it. Kansas City, San Francisco. I said going into the weekend, the result doesn't really matter. They're both going to make the playoffs. Yes, San Francisco is going to make the playoffs. I mean, that division right now, the NFC West, what do the Seahawks lead it? Don't get me started on Geno Smith. There's no precedent for Geno Smith. Bust. Year 8 or 9, he hits it. There's no precedent for it. We'll talk about that at a later date. But so Kansas City, it was their day. They bounced back after the Buffalo loss. Much healthier team than San Francisco. San Francisco is not going to have to face Kansas City in the playoffs. Look at Brady yesterday. Look at Aaron Rodgers. Look at Dak. You scared of Daniel Jones? Really? San Francisco's still physically a bit of a mess. So they're going to get healthier at the running back position. Christian McCaffrey is going to learn the entire playbook. They're going to be a force. There's going to be some tough games, but I believe it's the best roster in the NFC. You'd rather win that game than lose it, obviously. But Kansas City proved nothing. They're really good. They're really smart. They can go up tempo. They can slow it down. They have a more formidable run game on average than Buffalo's had in the last couple of years. There's nothing about Kansas City I see that would dissuade me from believing they'll end up in the AFC Championship. Win it? I'm not sure. They'll be there. Listen, Garoppolo didn't play well. And we know Garoppolo's not Patrick Mahomes. I said this a couple of weeks ago. Mahomes and Josh Allen have separated from the league. They have separated from the league as quarterbacks. The second tier has 8-10 guys I like, and you know who they are. Brady, believe it or not, Aaron Rodgers are both still in it. Stafford's still in it. Joe Burrow's near the top of it. But Garoppolo's, he is what he is. He's a distributor. I didn't think the Niners' offensive line was very good. I thought Steve Spagnuolo, the defensive coordinator for the Chiefs, brought a lot of people, a lot of blitz packages from a lot of different angles. And the Niners' offensive line, especially center right, is their weakness. And Spags attacked it, and it wasn't great. They'll be fine. It's like the previous week, we watched Buffalo and Kansas City play at Arrowhead. Bills win. What do we take from it? They're both really good. And they're both going to be playoff teams. I feel the exact same way. The difference is the Niners right now are such a mess physically, a little bit of a losing streak. There's going to be a lot of doubters. I'm not one of them. Listen, everybody was bailing on the Bengals 3 weeks ago. I said, I'm watching them play. They'll get the offensive line right. The Bengals are going to be fine. I feel the exact same way with San Francisco, except their roster's better. And the NFC is much, much weaker. So, in review, Miami feels like a playoff team if Tua can stay healthy. Green Bay's situation, completely, utterly predictable. Chiefs won Sunday. Right now, the better and healthier team. San Francisco will be fine. I will say, Coach of the Year, maybe it changes. But Brian Daboll, the job he is doing with Daniel Jones, he wins it. Second place is Pete Carroll. Lord knows I've been critical of Pete Carroll. But what he's done, Seattle's fast. Now they aced their draft. They got an edge rusher, Kenneth Walker, a running back, and 2 really good tackles. It is amazing, isn't it? The Jets and the Seahawks were 2 of the best drafts. And you said that. I said that. We all said that. You go out in the draft and get 4 starters and you're not paying any of them anything, it matters. That's the difference between the baseball draft. Even a great baseball draft, they all go to the minors. A great NBA draft, you may get 1 star and then another rotational player. In the NFL, the Jets got 4 starters. Seattle got their starting tackles potentially for a decade and a star running back and an edge rusher and a corner or 2. I mean, Seattle and the Jets drafts are a big reason why they're playing the way they are. All right, be on Fox tomorrow, Fox Sports, FS1, Premier Radio. Fun Sunday. Listen, it wasn't the greatest Sunday night football game, unless you're in Miami. But the first half was entertaining. Little drama at the end. See you soon.